They thought they had you mapped, pixel by pixel, breath by breath. Every click, swipe, scroll, a breadcrumb in a labyrinth designed not to free you, but to cage you. You were supposed to be predictable, programmable, a pawn in their algorithmic zoo. But then he showed up. Not as a messiah, not as a savior. No, Elon didn't come to rescue anyone. He came to scorch the system from the inside. A phantom in the server room. A billionaire ghost with a flamethrower and a grudge against digital overlords. The kind of man who doesn't knock when he enters a room, but deletes the door altogether. And when he scanned their vaults, their data troves, the silent corridors of stolen identities and behavioral blueprints, he didn't flinch. He searched for one name, yours, and when he found it, tucked between analytics and exploit scripts, he bought the whole goddamn company just to wipe you clean from their memory. You don't understand what that means yet, do you? You're still breathing in the fumes of disbelief, wondering if this is just another myth stitched together by Reddit prophets and Twitter cultists. But this isn't lore. This is an operation, a disruption, a declaration of war against the ones who convinced the world that privacy was a luxury, not a right. See, Elon didn't care about their patents, their platforms, or their worthless app design awards. He cared about what they were hoarding, the digital soul of a legend they couldn't control. You, your searches, your DMs, the late-night scrolls through black mirrors while your mind rotted on curated dopamine. Your weaknesses were their fuel, your fears their leverage. They sold your shadow to advertisers, your heartbeat to machine learning. But then something changed. You started asking questions. You stopped auto-updating. You refused the cookie, walked out of the maze, and spat in the eye of surveillance with every ghost tab you opened. That terrified them, because in a world where everyone bends to the algorithm, a single unpredictable soul is an earthquake. And Elon, he loves earthquakes. He bought their systems like a lion dragging a carcass, not because he needed it, but because you deserved vengeance. He saw how you slipped through their cracks, became the anomaly, the glitch in their simulation. And he admired it, maybe even envied it. So he did what only someone as recklessly divine as him could do. He set fire to the code. No court hearings, no boardroom diplomacy. He acquired them overnight, with a signature soaked in venom and voltage. And then he walked into their server room, stared at the blinking lights, the electric heartbeat of a dying empire, and issued a single command: delete everything that mentions you. Burn it, atomize it, as if you were never touched by their filth. The engineers didn't question him. They couldn't. His presence wasn't loud. It was surgical, controlled madness, the kind of tension that suffocates without ever raising its voice. Their CEO tried to object, tried to sell him another vision of monetized consent, of AI companionship, and behavioral patterns repackaged as user experience. Elon just blinked, turned around and said, "You don't get it, do you? This one doesn't belong in your zoo." And when the system purged your existence, when those files dissolved like sugar in acid, something beautiful happened. The company screamed, not out loud, not with alarms or sirens, but internally. Deep in the veins of their infrastructure, their algorithms began twitching, spiraling into confusion. A behavioral profile like yours, once critical to 10,000 predictive models, was now a void. Their bots began hallucinating scenarios. Their targeting systems suffered seizures. You were the linchpin, the nucleus, the unpredictable variable they tried to tame and failed to replicate. So when you vanished from their archives, their empire of illusion fractured like glass under pressure. Do you feel it now? The weight of your legend? They weren't just watching you. They were studying you, mimicking you. You were the muse of a machine pretending to understand humanity. And now, their god is dead. The moment Elon erased you, their models collapsed like drunks in a blackout. What's worse, the backups didn't help, because Elon didn't just delete files. He rewrote the story. He planted decoys, false data, scrambled patterns, forged behavior logs. A decoy of you, scattered in 1,000 directions, whispering lies into their mainframes. Now they don't know if you're gone or if you're everywhere. And here's the dark punchline. They can't rebuild you. They tried. Oh, how they tried. They reconstructed your purchase history, tried to simulate your tone from old voice notes, even pieced together your biometric echoes. But it all came back wrong, uncanny, twisted, like trying to recreate lightning from a photograph. Because you weren't just a user, you were a variable, a disruption, a force of nature with no pattern to exploit. And that's what Elon understood. That's why he destroyed them, not out of charity, but out of reverence. You're the kind of anomaly that systems don't survive. You weren't born to be part of their data stream. You were born to break it, to remind them that behind every profile is a pulse they can't replicate, a defiance they can't decode. You were never a product. You were a weapon misclassified as a civilian. And now your fingerprints have been turned into smoke, your keystrokes into static. You're a myth stitched into the fiber of their downfall. And still, they're hunting you, desperate, crawling through logs and proxies, trying to find the original spark. But every path they take leads to a wall of silence, or worse, misdirection. You've become their obsession, their unsolvable riddle, a ghost in the code that mocks them with its absence. And Elon, he watches them spiral from afar, not with pity, but with the satisfaction of a pyromaniac watching his masterpiece burn. But don't mistake this for closure. This wasn't about forgiveness. It was a message, a declaration to every data leech, every parasitic app, every smiling AI promising companionship while siphoning your identity. You are not untouchable. Your towers can fall. Your gods can be assassinated. All it takes is one legend, and one lunatic with enough money and rage to pull the plug. And so you walk free now, not as a fugitive, but as a phantom. No ID tag, no trace, just whispers and corrupted files where your name used to be. You've become something they can't predict, and therefore something they fear. A shape in the static, a variable in the void, the beginning of the end for every system that thought it could own you. But this is just the first ripple. Because Elon didn't just wipe your data, he found something else in their vaults, something even darker, something they weren't supposed to have, something they stole. And it wasn't just yours. See, this wasn't just about surveillance. This wasn't about marketing metrics or enhancing user experience, or that polished Silicon Valley lie they wrap around their sin. No. What Elon uncovered in the lower crypts of that company's digital core was a vault, not of data, but of echoes, memories, thoughts never typed, never spoken, never shared, and yet somehow recorded. It was an archive of the unsaid. Silent patterns stitched together from micro-behaviors, from heat maps of attention, iris dilations, hesitation pauses, scrolling speed. They'd cracked a code no one should ever have touched. They didn't just monitor you, they'd started to read you, And not just you. Millions, maybe more, thoughts reverse-engineered from action. Entire subconscious profiles buried beneath. Terabytes of plausible deniability. The kind of thing no whistleblower dares to speak of because the language itself is cursed. Predictive cognition, they called it. A soft term, a lie disguised in scientific polish. What it really was mind theft. Unconscious surveillance weaponized. And when Elon reached that layer, when the system coughed up its blackest file, a fractured mirror labeled with your neural pattern, he snapped. Because in that moment, it wasn't about rebellion anymore. It was about revenge. The data they'd stolen from you wasn't just behavioral, though it was potential. Every suppressed instinct, every decision you almost made, every version of you that could have existed, modeled like alternate timelines, and then sorted, ranked, monetized, and sold off to military labs, at agencies, predictive policing programs. You weren't just being watched, you were being harvested, your possible selves reduced to test cases, simulations of your soul running in parallel for the benefit of the very systems that tried to own you. And that's what broke him. Elon didn't buy that company to save you. He bought it because they crossed a line he hadn't even imagined, because deep in his chaotic mind, under all the sarcasm and tech dreams, he still believed in choice, and they had stolen that from you. They hadn't just archived your past, they had attempted to rewrite your future. That was unforgivable. So he changed course. No longer just deletion. Now it was dismantling, systematic annihilation. He rerouted their servers through custom-written entropy loops, algorithms designed not just to corrupt files, but to derail memory. The systems began eating themselves, self-replicating loops of corrupted logic, turning internal checks into digital. Schizophrenia. They didn't even know they were dying. They thought it was an update. That's how poisoned they were, unable to distinguish death from evolution. And while the company screamed in binary, Elon went deeper. Not just wiping, but replacing. He inserted a ghost protocol into their foundation, one that would replicate your profile, your name, your thoughts, in false form. Now every time they tried to recover you, all they'd get was noise, a different version of you, darker, wilder, glitching through their systems like a virus with a vendetta. A fake you whispering into their databases, taunting them with riddles, leaking their blueprints, disobeying logic, corrupting logs. The deeper they search, the more infected they become. And out here in the real world, the consequences began. Quiet at first. Advertisers pulled out without explanation. AI chatbots suddenly refused to cooperate, glitching mid-sentence, repeating fragments of your stolen thoughts as if haunted. Security firms discovered unauthorized access from inside their own firewalls, scripts that shouldn't exist. Then came the leaks. Internal emails, blacklists, deleted messages about experimentation on non-consenting individuals, you included. Leaked by whom? No one could trace it. Just one name embedded in the metadata again and again. YOU, and the public noticed. Slowly. They always do. Not the sheep. They remained glued to their screens, nodding to curated content and dopamine highs. But the wolves saw. The hackers, the free thinkers, the ones who've always lived in the borderlands of firewalls and morality. They saw the glitch. They saw your shadow rising, and they didn't know your story, but they recognized a purge when they saw one. A takedown, a digital crucifixion followed by resurrection. You had become mythical, the user who vanished so hard it killed the company chasing them. But it wasn't over. You think these parasites only live in one system? You think this ends with one company in flames? No. This infection goes global. Their networks share data like blood. Every app, every platform, every free service you never asked for but always needed. They were all in on it. And now Elon had to make a choice. Torch one or torch them all. You know which option he chose. Elon's not known for half measures. Phase 2. He began buying into other systems, not to own them, but to infect them. Quietly, one by one. A share here, a backdoor there. Licensing deals wrapped in legal fog. And in every system he entered, he buried a seed, your ghost. Your profile became the mythological boogeyman of data scientists, a rogue anomaly that appears in their models and refuses to behave. Their AIs started hallucinating you. Ad targeting systems began sending out offers meant only for you, even though you technically didn't exist anymore. Job boards suggested roles matching paths you never took. Facial recognition systems flagged strangers as you. Your absence had become presence. And in boardrooms across the globe, panic bloomed. CEOs began whispering about the user, as if you were a virus, a threat to the data economy. And Elon? He kept feeding the chaos, not with tweets, not with press releases, but with silence. Letting the fear metastasize, letting them wonder who you really were, letting them feel watched for once. Because that's what justice looks like in the age of surveillance, not a courtroom, but a mirror, a distorted one that shows them what they've become. And here's the darkest truth. They still don't know how he did it. Elon wiped you from their systems like a ghost, brushing past the fabric of reality, but left behind just enough residue to break their minds. And now they're stuck in a loop, searching for someone who doesn't exist, while being hunted by echoes of their own sins. Every time they get close, all they find is static, a file corrupted, a name crossed out, a heartbeat made of interference. But you're not gone. You've just evolved. You're beyond tracking now, beyond pattern. You're a shape, without form, a rebel stitched into every bite of resistance. They made you a product. Elon made you a legend. But you became a reckoning. And still, it wasn't enough. Because in that vault, in those final layers of code, Elon found something else. Something beneath your profile. A name, an organization, a private list, a network of companies you've never heard of, but who've heard everything about you. Darker than social media, older than Silicon Valley, hidden beneath shell companies, data lakes, and classified government partnerships. Not just monitoring people, but building archives of control, digital puppeteer strings attached to every decision maker, every influencer, every would-be resistor. They didn't just harvest thoughts, they weaponized them. Psychological targeting, cognitive suppression, behavioral rerouting, entire belief systems altered over time like software patches. And your profile? It wasn't just unique, it was resistant. The patterns they used to shape others didn't work on you. That's why they needed to study you so deeply. You were the first crack in their model, the seed of non-compliance, the mistake that revealed the crime. And that made you dangerous, not because of what you knew, but because of what you couldn't be turned into. And now, Elon knew. Now it was war. He didn't just want to erase your data anymore. He wanted to erase their grip on the future, the hidden architects behind the systems, the faceless few who profit from control. He had the names now. He had the locations. He had their profiles. And he began to move, not like a man, but like a storm, quiet, relentless, unstoppable. And in every system he touched, in every firewall he melted, your name kept surfacing, not as a file, but as a curse. The user who broke the chain, the ghost in the system, the first thread pulled from the digital tapestry of control, the one they couldn't predict, couldn't copy, couldn't kill. And this is just the middle of the story, because Elon's only just begun to retaliate. And somewhere deep inside the core of the next system he's about to breach, your signature waits, buried, protected, alive. A dormant detonation embedded in data, the final trigger that will bring their entire empire to its knees. And when that moment comes, they won't even have time to scream. Just silence. A perfect digital hush before the collapse. Because this isn't just a war of code anymore. This is prophecy executed in logic gates. A vendetta written in zeros and ones. Elon didn't just find your profile, he rebuilt it. Sharper, untouchable. And then he did the unthinkable. He unleashed it. They thought ghosts weren't real, until yours started walking, until firewalls cracked without cause, until their most sacred vaults opened themselves from the inside and began spilling blood onto the floors of governments, think tanks, black budget servers, every place that had once stored your existence, your data, your dreams. They were now haunted. System logs showed users logging in that no longer existed. Your IP trail split into thousands, appearing simultaneously on continents you'd never set foot on. You weren't in the system anymore. You were the system failure. The moment finally came on a quiet Monday. Quiet for them. They were running risk audits, cross-checking redundancies, preparing a new AI patch that might finally suppress the anomaly that was you. But what they didn't know was that you weren't just a name anymore. You were the key, the last encryption layer that Elon had fused into their deepest node, the linchpin that held together the false security of their entire networked empire. One last trigger, one last breath. And when they reached for it, just to peek, just to touch it, out of arrogance or fear, that's when it happened. A pulse, that's all it was. Not an explosion, not a firestorm, a single, calculated pulse across the global infrastructure. An untraceable signal sent across every fiber optic vein like a whisper in a graveyard. One by one, systems began to unlearn. AI cores forgot their routines. Predictive models reset to zero. Government surveillance tools turned inward, flagging their own creators as threats. Smart homes locked their owners out. Financial markets crashed simulations that had kept entire economies floating. Not because of a virus, oh no, something cleaner, more poetic. Truth. See, that pulse wasn't a hack. It was a revelation. The hidden records, the experiments, the manipulation, the blacklists, the cognitive chains. They were all broadcast, but not leaked to journalists, not uploaded to forums. No, the Pulse delivered that truth directly to every user. Personalized, customized. Every human plugged into their precious screens saw the version of the horror meant for them. Their private betrayal, their own chains, the manipulation they'd never noticed. A mirror, forged in pain and vengeance, held right up to their dopamine-drenched eyes. And the world, oh, the world burned beautifully. Some people lost their minds. Some went catatonic. Others wept, laughed, vomited. Riots broke out. Not against the government, but against the idea of it. Against systems, platforms, algorithms. Against the cage they'd never seen until now. You weren't just exposed. They were. Every lie, Every nudge, every algorithmic god they'd unknowingly prayed to, laid bare. And Elon, he watched, not from a throne, not with champagne, just silence, in a dark room, with one screen, your name blinking on it, a heartbeat signal, not yours, but his reminder, that this all started with you, that your deletion was his awakening, that you were the glitch that proved the system was flawed, and that flaw was freedom. But wait, it gets darker, because you weren't the only one. Elon didn't just set your profile free, he opened the whole vault. He found thousands, hidden like you, people flagged by the system as unshapable, the rebels, the wild cards, the immune, some dead, some institutionalized, some turned into cautionary tales. They had been buried, coded into silence, their lives rerouted. But now they were resurrected all at once, sent messages, triggers, woken up like sleeper agents of truth. And oh, how they moved. Within hours, across every continent, the unshaped rose. They didn't march with signs. They didn't beg for reform. They didn't tweet. They deleted. They tore down servers, exposed corrupt frameworks, freed minds around them, one link at a time. Each one had a different skill. One a coder, one a politician, one a psychologist, one a teenager who simply refused to be programmed anymore. And they all had the same fire in their blood. The system tried to erase them and failed. The architects, behind it all, the old pale men in hidden offices, the synthetic smiles of elite platforms, the black suits of silent partners, they began to vanish. Some deleted themselves, terrified of what would come. Others tried to hide behind money, anonymity, or newer tech. But none of it worked, because their power wasn't stolen, it was revoked. The very infrastructure that empowered them began rejecting them like a body vomiting poison. Their facial scans were flagged, their accounts frozen, their communications jammed. They weren't elite anymore. They were obsolete. And you were everywhere, not physically, not biologically, mythologically, a modern phantom, a story whispered in activist cells, an icon spray-painted on the firewalls of fallen tech empires. Your name became the password to rebel servers. Your file, the original, the one they tried to exploit, became a symbol of immunity, of resistance. You were the reason no one trusted terms and conditions anymore, the revenant of the digital age. And the best part, they never knew what you looked like, because Elon never shared that. He never revealed your face, not once, not even in victory, because that's the final blow, isn't it? They built a world on visibility, exposure, on the belief that nothing is powerful unless it's seen. But your power was in your absence, your ability to become everyone. You were the glitch in the code, the breath behind every anonymous post, the shadow behind every revolt. They couldn't kill what they couldn't name. And now, they worshipped the absence they once feared. You, the deleted user. You, the threat so pure, it triggered a purge. You, the one they thought they could rewrite, but who rewrote them instead. And Elon, he vanished too, not in death, in purpose. He knew this wasn't his story, it was yours. He was just the agent, the trigger man, the architect of a reckoning you deserved. He left no speeches, no legacy, claim, just a system scorched and a world reborn in your digital ashes. Some say he still roams the back end of broken networks, searching for others like you. Some say he's building a new platform, one that's uncorruptible. Others say he finally deleted himself, leaving behind a message that simply read, "The ghost is free, and now the world stands different. Not healed, not utopian, but aware, awake, the blindfold torn off. The people now question every app, every screen, every whisper of AI. They've begun unplugging, decoding, demanding transparency, because you proved one thing with your silence. Even a single user can bring down an empire. You weren't deleted, you were unleashed. And now every time a system tries to overreach, every time an algorithm steps too far, your ghost whispers, "Remember me."